We think about a dash of grit being one moment in life where you have to really show up and really work hard and get across whatever hurdles in your way to that success that you're trying to reach. But what when you're young and you got to show the grit, and when you're in school and you got to show the grit, and what if it's all the time? What if you were raised having to show grit? Sometimes that's the best kind. We're going to tell that story next with Mark Svozil of Davey Tree. Next.
This is A Dash of Grit. Recipes for success from courageous leaders who overcome challenges and build great things. Now, podcasting from Spire to leaders in local communities like yours, here is Brian Leflock.
And let's get cooking. Folks, I love success stories. And too often we think success stories come just for the chosen few, the silver spoon, the folks that have their father's name on the company door. And we don't realize that most success comes from the ground up. And I'm excited for you to meet a very successful, a very grit-conscious, hard-working man who has made it good from the ground up. And in fact, it's about the ground. He is working with Davey Tree. He's the Vice President, General Manager of Commercial Landscape Services for Davey Tree Expert Company. They are professional tree care, plant health care, landscaping. They're in 45 states in Canada. And Mark Svozil is the Vice President, General Manager. Mark, welcome to Dash of Grit.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I know a little bit about your story because we've talked before, but I am excited to learn more. And I know that you've overcome all kinds of challenges and hurdles by your own hard work and just getting busy. And I applaud that. And I think our listeners are going to love that. And you've really accomplished a lot through that. And so let's talk about that after you kind of brag a little bit about either yourself and your family and how great things are, or about Davey Tree. Tell me what success looks like for you now, because I know you've worked hard to earn it.
Well, I'm probably not going to brag too much other than the fact that, my bragging comes from the team that we have around us. And that's personally and professionally. And going to jump to something I do pretty well is I think I can find another level of effort, success, and driving people. I challenge them. I help them see what winning looks like. And I'm very relentless in the pursuit of them achieving what the next level is for them. And I think that's probably the best thing that I do as a leader of people is I truly try to find another level for people.
And I'm interested, do you try to find another level for people for the growth of Davey Tree or for the individual you're working with? What's your goal there?
In both, or in that situation, both win.
Yeah.
You're developing your team. You're developing a deeper bench. Obviously, it's strengthening the team. But when you're talking about developing that person, it's a career. It's no longer a job. It becomes a career. And that career impacts them. It affects their family. It affects their friends, everybody around it. So there's a lot of people that win when somebody finds out they have another gear or another level. So that's why it's so important to me. When I see people move up a career ladder, it just gives me great pride to see those accomplishments.
Yeah. And like you said, it builds Davey Tree. And what is it that a general manager, vice president, commercial landscape services does? What are you responsible for at Davey Tree across the country?
Well, I help oversee all of our operations from Hawaii to Washington, D.C., from Minneapolis down to South Florida. So we provide professional grounds care to some of the most prestigious properties in the country. It could be a government property. It could be a high-profile cemetery like Arlington Cemetery or Woodlawn Cemetery, golf courses around the country we take care of, huge HOAs in Florida. They're all over the place. We have some of the biggest large retails and a lot of hospitality, and then also hospitals, some big hospitals like the Cleveland Clinic. So we take care of all of that.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot. And you would think that someone who has that kind of responsibility has done a ton of master's classes and all kinds of different things and just kind of walked his way into that. But you earned it. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the hurdles you had to overcome to get where you are today. You can take me back as far as you want, but I know it hasn't always been easy. So let's go through some gritty stories about overcoming some hurdles and getting to where you are today.
Well, early on, and I don't really call this a hurdle other than it's just something that we faced is we didn't have a lot. My family, we didn't have a lot. I'm not going to say we went without, but I was one of those kids that had that special colored lunch card that I knew that it was either free lunches or discounted lunches. And, you carried that. You had to listen to the remarks that were said to you. We didn't live in a big house. 5 of us shared, one bathroom, and but we made do. And we may not have had a lot, but we had family. So you're growing up and my mom and dad did whatever it took to make sure we had clothes, we had food, we were at whatever event we needed to be. They spared nothing to make sure that me, my brother, my sister, we had things, but again, it was not easy on them. So you just saw the work ethic and that created a foundation in me. So going to school, high school, I wasn't a great student. I didn't love being there. But I did what I had to do to get through. So after high school, I went to a local community college and was really trying to figure out who I was, what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be. I always knew I liked being outside, but even then, back then, there's a lot of pressures to make you feel like you had money. That you want to take the job with the most money because people, that's how people judged you. And I wasn't there. But I was going to school, working part-time, and, I came across Davey Tree. I was looking for something. Actually, my mom had recommended, her boss at the time said, you send Mark to Davey Tree. They're an incredible company. They'll take care of him. They'll help him. Yeah. And so I came to Davey Tree, interviewed after hours, showed up in muddy clothes because I'd been working out doing a hardscaping job, and met with a gentleman after hours. He stayed and just had an incredible interview. He's like, "Hey, you're the kind of person that's going to fit in here. It's a good connection." I took the job on, and right from the start, it was, again, not knowing what I wanted to do, a lot of things, I really think everybody in life goes through a boot camp. Okay. But what I mean by that is boot camp might be college. It might be truly the military. It might be a job. It might be whatever it is. It might be their parents. And you also find that at different stages of your life. But Davey Tree was my boot camp. It truly helped me recognize a lot of things of what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be. And it helped me find that I truly did love being outside and loved working with my hands and doing things. So didn't worry about money because I found something that I loved.
That you loved.
That's really, the start of how I got into Davey Tree.
So I'm interested, and I want to talk more about how that went when you got there, because you turned it into something special. But let's go back a little bit. You're the kid with the yellow card. You're the kid without a whole lot. You're the kid that showed up at the Davey Tree interview in muddy clothes and things of that sort. How did you keep the head trash out? That you don't belong, that you're not good enough, that you're not like the rich kid across the street. And yet, like your family said you were good enough, and the kids were talking behind your back. Like, how did you keep the positive mental attitude to keep trying to find something better for yourself?
Well, a couple ways. One, thankfully, we didn't have social media back then.
Yeah, boy, tell you that.
Yeah. I think that ruins a lot of kids' lives. I think it contributes to a lot of bad. But so we didn't have that. So, what you did have is you had your friends that you really got along with, and then your family, and the support I got from my family is you're just judged on what you have in your heart, and that's what always drove me.
And is that what drove you when you showed up at the interview in muddy clothes and not wondering whether you could make it or not? But is that what drove you? Is like, I can do this. I've got heart. Because I'd have been scared to death. I'm showing up at this corporate thing and this big wig and a big job that I really want, and I'm just not good enough. That didn't happen for you?
Well, no. You just I kind of set the tone really and said, hey, I'm going to be coming from work. I'm probably going to be in a situation I'm not going to look that professional. When he was in a local office, and he couldn't have embraced it any better. And
That's awesome.
Really, that just made it very easy to interview, and help me realize early on that this might be a pretty good opportunity.
Now, when you got there and you started, and now we're back to where we started the job, and it was a good opportunity for you. What kind of work were you doing? Did you have your sights on the position you're in right now? What were you trying to accomplish at that time?
Well, when I first got there, I had no idea how big Davey Tree was. I had no idea the opportunity, the potential. When I first started there, I was handed a folder with all kinds of work, and he said, "All right, this is what the guy last year did. Let's see what you got." And truthfully, I came in on Wednesday night, threw the book down, said, "I'm done. What do you got for me the rest of the week?" And he's like, "I got this look." And he's like, "Well, last year took that guy all week." And I go, "Well, it doesn't take all week. You need to go find some more work for me." And at that point, there was a connection between Rick and I, but so it was just, there was a lot of trust right out of the gate. They just trusted me to say, "Hey, here you go out and make your thing, make your deal, and figure out your craft." And I was cutting grass, and then because we were doing that, we got done. They had to throw me and do something else. So it was, some days it was landscape, some day it was lawn care, some days it was actually climbing trees. And I don't belong in a tree. Okay, I'll just say that right now. So, but that's kind of how that all started. And I got some great advice even before I went into doing anything. My mom always told me, outwork and out hustle. Yeah. And if you do that, you'll be just fine. And I went in there thinking that same attitude is, I'm going to outwork and out hustle everybody and anybody, and I'm going to let the cards play as they do.
For what purpose? Because hourly wages and minimum wages and salaries are going to be what they're going to be. You actually asked for more work. You're not making more pay. Explain that mindset to me.
Well, it was funny, and I joke about this because I talk about to the whole team, I was the lowest paid guy in that office. I didn't care. Because it was, again, about still finding out who I was, what I was capable of, the opportunity that was in front of me. So I was still in a lot of discovery mode. I didn't know what I didn't know. So there was, again, kind of going through that in my boot camp. And, you work with some tree guys that carry some big egos. I mean, these guys that climb trees, you got to have a chip on your shoulder to be able to climb up 60, 80, 90 foot and do what they do. So, you got to deal with them telling you, this is how it is, young man. Mm-hmm. But you just took it. You just took it. And then when I was on those crews, if I was dragging brush, well, you just drag more brush than anybody else. And if you're on a landscape crew, you just dig more holes than everybody else. You move more mulch. You outwork and out hustle no matter what you do in life, whatever's in front of you.
And it sounds to me like that's not a means to an end. It sounds to me like that's the end. Like every day, every moment, you're going to outwork and out hustle and then just see what the next day brings you. It's not so that you can get ahead. It's just that that's the way you're made. Is that right?
Yeah. Again, my parents, brought me up to, you got to keep going.
Got to keep going.
Tomorrow brings, so you keep going.
So is it that easy then, Mark? You just outwork and out hustle and you become the vice president and general manager in a national organization over 45 states in Canada? Or there's got to be something harder than that?
Well, I mean, Davey's an incredible company and it just doesn't just happen like that. But at the same time, Davey recognizes the efforts of what the people are putting in, what your commitment is, what your investment is, and then they invest right back in you. So, not every company does that, but there's too many people out there that focus on one or two things, and it's money, okay, and what's in it for me. And there's far bigger pictures, and companies can react and invest in you differently if you just give more. Don't always ask for more, give more, and I think you'll find there's something there.
So along the way, You're making these steps up. You started out mowing the grass and digging the holes and doing the things that you got to do, and you were going to work harder. But working harder only gets you so far. And there's people out there that have the master's degrees in horticulture and all the different things, and they're book smarts, right? And you're out there digging holes and learning how to do it. At some point, did you have some head trash that says, okay, I've reached as far as I can get. I'm okay here, but this is just where I'm going to end up? Or did you see bigger things for yourself no matter what and just continue to work hard? How did that work for you? Was there ever any doubt? There had to have been.
There was times that you basically you have speed bumps. Okay. Somebody that wasn't in it, wasn't rowing in the same direction as you were. Yeah. But, amazing what those people, what we call them destroyers. There's builders and destroyers in your life. And those destroyers, they're usually not around very long. So when you have them, you just, again, you keep working, keep grinding, keep going. And those destroyers will get rid of themselves. So, and they do. And they're temporary. So we, keep working hard, keep the focus straight ahead and good things happen. And again, the company recognizes that. And it isn't about what degree you have or don't have. It's about what work efforts you put forth, and good things happen.
Yeah. Can you give me an example of a story, a destroyer type story, when you kind of thought that it was going to kind of fall apart for you a little bit? Can you give me an example of that?
Yeah. Got a good one, actually. I spent about my first 10 years, I was in what they called our RC, which is residential commercial division. And everything was combined at that time. So that was in late 90s, going into 2000, 2001. So the company focused to kind of split that off, made it want to make an effort to grow the tree care, plant health care, and then also wanted to grow commercial landscaping. So my strengths were in the commercial landscape side, the maintenance side, snow removal side. So I went over to that side. And originally when it happened, I was kind of talked to and said, hey, you're going to get looked at to kind of run all of Northeast Ohio. So literally kind of day one, I went in there and it was, oh no, well, somebody else is going to do that. And I'm like, well, I didn't even get talked to about it. And that was a tough year. I'm not going to lie. That person, on paper had some stuff, but he didn't have the same drive, and he was not a leader. So it was hard. I spent a year with him, and as I shared earlier, he was a destroyer. He was the kind of guy that wouldn't come to work for weeks and be like, where is he? And I'm like, I don't care where he is. He's not here and he's not hurting us. So let's keep going with the business. That was my mentality. It was like, hey, I'm not going to try to make him look bad. He's already doing that to himself. I'm going to make sure that everybody here is here and taken care of, because if this becomes mine, I need all of you. So that was my mentality of take care of who's here and don't worry about who's not here. So he literally made it a year, and like I said, destroyers worked themselves out. He worked himself out. But that was the hardest year of my life, because I didn't know. I mean, working for somebody that was just no direction, no leadership, really just kind of undermined you, did a lot of different things. It was tough, but another thing my mom also told me was never let one person chase you out of a company or a job that you love. And I've carried that. And he was one person. It was a tough situation, but I kept going. So I went from there. I took over as branch manager for all of Northeast Ohio and carried that position for 6+ years. It had great success growing it from a $1 million operation to multi-million-dollar operation, and spread out from literally Elyria to Menor down to Canton. So it was a big area.
Where did your mom get all of her wisdom? I mean, she sounds like an amazing person.
Yeah, little Italian woman. She's a hell of a cook too.
Yeah,
I tell you. But no, she. I think her mom and dad. Yeah. Just the way she was brought up.
I think it means everything, doesn't it? I mean, we can put all of our eggs into different baskets, but we can never go wrong if we stick with what family teaches us and move forward. And don't worry about money.
Mom and dad are pretty smart.
Yeah, mom and dad are pretty smart. Hey, when that was going wrong, when you had that destroyer working, I mean, he might not have worked himself out after a year. He might have just kept going. In that situation, most people nowadays, I feel like if things aren't going right, they just leave. The grass is greener somewhere else. You stuck it out. Did you see something in Davey Tree that you wanted to stick with no matter what? Or did you, what kept you there while things were getting really hard? Because that takes grit too, just holding on.
Yeah, I was never going to leave the company. I mean, I go through that position and always knew. And I had, again, you work a decade with this company, you develop some friendships that are unbelievable, the bonds that you have. Because you're working, in some cases, it was 60, 70, 80 hours, loved it. But you develop friendships and you have lunch with people every day, you just different things. So I had communicated well with the family that I had kind of left and moved over, and they knew that something wasn't right.
Yep.
At the same time, I was never leaving Davey. There was never an option. Considered leaving the position, but never the company.
Yeah, I think too many people don't have that, and God bless you for having that kind of loyalty and realizing that you had to stick it out. So now you're with Davey Tree and you're in a leadership position. You've earned every piece of it. What's next? You've overcome a lot to get where you are now. What's the next level of hurdles, next struggles that you're going to have to do as far as a company goes, or just in your position moving forward to make things work for Davey Tree and for you, Mark?
Well, after, being a branch manager, we did have great success, but it wasn't easy. I mean, when a lot of people talk about our industry, it's not glamorous.
Yeah.
It's not high profile. A lot of parents are steering their kids to go and do something completely different because they don't understand that there can be a career in this industry. And so you battle with that all the time about people. You battle with work ethic of people. There's just so many things. So
hiring going forward is a hard thing. That's something you really got to figure out.
Well, hiring for the last 20 years has only gotten harder, and I'm not looking forward to the next. Other than it's a challenge. We embrace challenges, but it's hard, And I think that's going to be for any industry out there right now, as people as we're hearing you every day in the news. That's all you hear and read about.
Yeah.
So I became a regional manager. So at that point, then I was overseeing 9 operations that were spread across the country.
Yeah.
And that wasn't easy because then you find out, a Northern Ohio boy doesn't talk and think like somebody from Florida.
Yeah.
Okay. Or from Washington, D.C. or Northern Virginia or, all these different areas. But you had to go figure out a way to get people to believe in you, to buy in what you're doing and also recognize that you're there as a support to them. And that wasn't easy. That really wasn't, because again, a lot of people have worked really hard to get to the position they were in. I was promoted, not them. So there was a little bit of a wall that was put up that just naturally happens. It's like, oh, you're that guy.
Yep.
But, worked hard with the team, let them know that, I'm not going to get in the way and I'm not going to disrupt, and tried to be, a helping hand along the way.
Yeah.
But the challenges of, you had to take your local issues and multiply them by 9, because that's really what that became. But to go back to the what I had shared earlier about, finding another level in people, I went with that. I mean, really it was about letting them recognize that they're capable of this, believing in themselves, believing in the team, delegating and kind of building a championship team, as we call it.
Yeah. And I congratulate you for taking your upbringing, your opportunities to kind of throw it in yourself when it was hard and people talking behind your back and those kinds of things, to now being able to be in a leadership position to help others overcome those things and to be the hard worker and to believe in themselves and to move something bigger than themselves forward. So God bless you and congratulations on your success and for overcoming the hurdles on the way over. So Mark Svozil, he's the general manager and vice president of Davey Tree in the commercial landscaping division. And Davey Tree is an amazing company. And
the Dash of Grit podcast is brought to you by Spire. Spire creates results-driven digital marketing and websites that help companies grow. Are you ready to break through the barriers that hold your company back? Take your growth higher with Spire. Learn more at spiread.com.
And this has been a tremendous show. Mark, I'm just thrilled to have met you in the first place. I love the bootstrap mentality of getting it done. Nothing's going to stop me. There's all kinds of things in the way. There's all kinds of things that could be easier, but I'm going to get it done. And that work until you can't work anymore ethic has gotten you amazing places. And thank you for sharing that story.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you, Mark, being on the guest on Dash of Grit. We do this once every week, and you can hear all kinds of other amazing stories of overcoming hurdles and challenges and showing grit on the way to success at dashofgrit.com and wherever you find your podcasts. Until we meet again, stay gritty and win the day.
This is a Dash of Grit. Recipes for success from courageous leaders who overcome challenges and build great things.